Empress Velishka's claw-tipped hand pressed the imperial seal into the yielding wax of the treaty scroll, her motion precise as a blade's descent. The grand hall of the treaty citadel echoed with the faint hiss of cooling wax, but no warmth stirred in her chest, only the cold calculus of necessity. The volatile northern border demanded this pact with the human republic, a fragile tether against the encroaching raiders from the fractured veil. She straightened, her iridescent scales catching the light of the hovering lumen orbs, and fixed her gaze on the assembled court. Nobles in their layered robes of state, rival delegates from the eastern hives, and the sparse human envoy who had borne the document. The great doors groaned open on counterweighted hinges, admitting Captain Jonah Reyes. He strode forward in his unadorned Republic uniform, simple gray weave over reinforced plating, no flourish to mark his station beyond the insignia of a field operative. Whispers rippled through the hall like wind through dry reeds. Tisar protocol demanded prostration before the throne, forehead to stone, for any consort entering the sovereign's presence. Yet Reyes halted at her right, precisely where the ancient edicts placed a true equal, his posture erect, eyes level with hers. No bow, no deference beyond a curt nod. Velishka's frills flared subtly along her neck, a flicker of irritation she quelled with imperial discipline. Primitive or not, this human carried the weight of the alliance on his shoulders. Ceremonial consort in name, guardian of the pact in truth. She had studied the dossiers. Humans endured sieges that would shatter Tisar resolve, adapted to toxins that felled her finest scouts. Dismissible curiosities, perhaps, but useful. "Captain Reyes," she intoned, her voice a resonant timbre that silenced the murmurs. "You stand at my right as the Republic's pledge." "The treaty binds us." His response came steady, uninflected. "Empress, I stand ready to honor it." The court shifted uneasily. Lord Cresher, high noble of the obsidian clade, leaned forward from his dais, his multifaceted eyes glinting. But Velishka preempted the brewing dissent. "Guards of the Crimson Veil," she commanded two of her elite detail forward, their segmented armor humming faintly. "Escort Captain Reyes to his quarters within the inner sanctum. Nominal protection only. He requires no coddling." She turned to the courtiers, her gaze sweeping like a scythe. "All within these walls will accord him the respect due my consort. Question this, and you question the throne." The guards flanked Reyes without touching him, guiding him toward the arched exit. He moved with them unhurriedly, sparing her a glance that held neither awe nor resentment. Mere acknowledgement, as if protocol were a tool he might one day set aside. Velishka watched him depart, her mind already turning to the ratification feast. The humans' normal insistence on parity, chafed yet it mirrored their battlefield tenacity, unyielding without bluster. The feast commenced in the vaulted refectory, crystal goblets chiming under projected starfields that mimicked the northern skies. Velishka presided from the high dais, sampling the spiced nectar of veil fruits while nobles circled like predators scenting weakness. Then Lord Cresher rose, his delegation from the rival suitor's hive, Prince Vorak of the Thorn Dominion, flanking him. Vorak himself loomed, a towering figure with venom spurs extended in subtle challenge, his entourage a phalanx of armored retainers. "Empress," Cresher declared, voice oily with feigned deference. "This ratification honors tradition, yet wisdom bids pause. The human alliance secures a border, true, but at what cost to our purity? Prince Vorak offers legions unbound by alien frailties, his bloodline proven in the hive wars. Reconsider before this novelty erodes the Imperium's spine." Murmurs swelled, frills quivering across the hall. Vorak's spurs clicked against his throne segment, a rhythmic demand for assent. Velishka felt the political lattice tightening. Cresher's faction had long coveted her throne's eastern alliances, and this human pact threatened their leverage. She set her goblet down with deliberate calm, her tail curling in restrained ire. "Lord Cresher, Prince Vorak, your counsel is noted, but the Veil Raiders strike not with hive loyalty, but with void ships that mock our traditions. This treaty arms us against that chaos. Speak further, and provide proof of your superior safeguard." Vorak leaned in, his mandibles parting. "My fleets have repelled incursions thrice this cycle, Empress. Humans, they scatter like dust before coordinated assault." Before Velishka could retort, the refectory's alert chimes pierced the air, shrill, insistent. A holographic projector flickered to life at the hall's center, summoned by her chamberlain. Grainy feeds from the border outposts materialized. Tisar patrols clashing with Veil Raiders mere spans from the treaty city. Energy lances scorched the frost-kissed earth, skimmers weaving through jagged spires as raiders' boarding pods rained from the dusk skies. Casualties scrolled in crimson script, 2 squads overrun, a forward bastion cracking under plasma barrage. The hall froze. Nobles recoiled, frills collapsing in shock. Vorak's spurs retracted involuntarily. Beliska rose, her presence commanding silence. This was no coincidence. Skirmish timed to the ceremonies, a deliberate underline to the pack's frailty without it. Her mind raced through deployments, traditional phalanxes holding the line by rote, but the raiders exploited gaps with unpredictable feints. Humans reported patterns in such chaos, connecting strikes across void lanes that her analysts missed. "Chamberlain," she snapped, voice cutting the panic. "Summon the Frontier Command. Nexus. Now." Courtiers blinked in astonishment. Protocol demanded ritual mourning before reviews. Not this abrupt pivot. But Belishka strode to the central holotable as it activated, overriding the feast's projections. Tactical overlays bloomed, Legion positions in rigid grids, raider vectors snaking like venom trails. Prashar sputtered. "Empress, the augurs." "Augurs predict stagnation," she interrupted, frills fully extended in authority. "We review deployments immediately." "Captain Reyes," she gestured sharply. Guards had already fetched him from his quarters, his uniform unmarked by haste. He approached without flourish, eyes scanning the hollow with the calm focus of one who had walked such maps before. "Captain," she said, stationing him at her side, "your Republic's borders face similar threats." "Observations?" Reyes studied the display, fingers tracing phantom lines over the projection, multitasking the feeds, cross-referencing raider pod launches with patrol rotations. No fatigue in his stance, though the hour pressed late. "Raiders favor hit and fade, Empress. Your grids are solid against mass assault, but they're threading the microgaps here." He indicated pulsing nodes. "And here. Shift your flankers to rotating patrols, overlap by 15 spans. Humans call it elastic defense. Absorbs the punch, then counters." Alicia's analysts hissed in surprise. Such adaptability bypassed their rote simulations. She nodded, inputting the adjustment herself. "Implement and integrate human liaison protocols. Captain Reyes will advise on pattern shifts." The holotable updated in real time, projections shifting from red threat to amber viability. Vorak's delegation exchanged glances, their dismissal cracking into wary calculation. Pressure subsided, his ploy undermined not by bluster, but by this human's quiet competence, enduring the scrutiny, reading the chaos where teaser eyes saw only noise. Beliska felt a flicker of something beyond necessity. Respect, earned in the heat of crisis. The skirmish feed stabilized as orders cascaded out, raiders recoiling from the reformed line. As the court dispersed into hushed strategy clusters, Reyes lingered at her right. Unbowed still, Beliska met his gaze, the treaty's chill thawing into alliance's first spark. The border held. For now. But greater tests loomed, and this human unprostrated might prove the edge her empire needed. Belishka's crest rippled faintly as Ambassador Vexar thrust his data slate forward, its holographic projections flickering with schematics of quarantined human enclaves. "Empress assimilation protocols demand containment," he insisted, his scales gleaming under the chamber's vaulted lumens. "This Reyes creature, primitive, unblooded, poses contamination risks to our legion's purity. Limit him to ceremonial shadow, no more." She straightened, on her throne dais, the weight of imperial regalia steadying her against the rival's barbs. The council cluster, High Lord Kresh, Intelligence Chief Sareth, and a half-dozen faction heads, hovered in tense formation, their tails coiled like drawn blades. Reyes stood silent at her flank, his posture erect yet unobtrusive, eyes scanning the dispersing courtiers without a flicker of defiance. Beliska noted it. No prostration, but no presumption either. "Ambassador," she replied, voice a silken lash. "The treaty binds us to alliance, not your personal vendettas. Debate merits, not fears." Vexar's frill pulsed crimson.
"Merits? Humans breed chaos."
Their borders bleed raiders, their worlds fracture under petty wars. Stricter edicts, segregated armories, monitored vitals, secure the Imperium. Kresh rumbled agreement, his bulk shifting. The outer provinces murmur, grant too much, and factional blades sharpen. Veliska's gaze flicked to Reyes, weighing him against their words. Primitive? Perhaps in scale tech, but his unyielding stance whispered otherwise. "Protocols evolve with necessity," she decreed. "We proceed to the border ratification procession. Their value declares itself." The grand thoroughfare thrummed with imperial splendor as the procession uncoiled from the palace spires. Valiska glided at its heart atop her lev platform, flanked by Reyes and a phalanx of Tassar honor guard, their scaled armor etched with divine runes, plasma lances humming. Aerial drones whirred overhead, broadcasting to the Empire's core worlds. Courtiers and legionnaires lined the crystalline avenue. Crests flared in ritual fervor. Vexor trailed in the secondary rank, his faction's propagandists whispering into comms beads. Reyes leaned close, voice low amid the rhythmic chant of war drums. Empress, your vanguard spacing invites enfilade. Shift the outer flank 2 paces left. Funnel any lateral threats into the lance overlap. She arched a brow ridge, propriety holding her tone crisp. Guard doctrine suffices, Captain. It has for centuries. With respect, the crowd density here masks low-profile vectors. A simple adjustment, a sharp crack split the air. From the throng's edge, a cloaked figure lunged, arm cannon blooming with saboteur plasma. The bolt streaked low, aimed for the platform's core. But Reyes's shift had warped the formation. The outer guard's lances crossed like a net, refracting the blast into harmless vapor. The saboteur crumpled under return fire, his hood revealing factional tattoos. Dexar's rival block. Chaos erupted briefly. Screams, drones dipping for scans, then quelled under Legion discipline. Valiska's platform halted smoothly, her tail lashing once before stilling. Reyes had drawn his sidearm in a blur, covering her without command, now holstering it as guards dragged the corpse forward. The procession reformed, drones capturing every angle. Valiska raised a gauntleted hand addressing the broadcast. The Imperium endures. Our guard's unerring training deflects all shadows. She credited doctrine, not the human propriety demanded it. But inwardly, her crest itched with questions. How had he foreseen? In the shadowed alcove post-procession, she summoned Chief Sereth. The intelligence officer's multifaceted eyes gleamed as he bowed low. Verify Reyes's claim, Valiska commanded softly. Formation logs, threat models, discreetly. If instinct or insight, I would know. Sareth's mandibles clicked affirmation. As you decree, Sovereign. By evening, the spin coursed through court channels. Dexar's propagandists flooded the feeds. Holographic recreations twisted the blast's origin to a human smuggler's desperation. The deflection mere fortunate misalignment. Factional opposition swelled. Whispers and strategy clusters branded the treaty a liability, humans as volatile sparks in imperial powder. Valiska observed from her command balcony, the cityscape's glow reflecting off her scales. Reyes approached at a guard's nod, unbidden, but unapologetic. Empress, the spins ignore the saboteur's mods. Non-standard. Foreign alloys, suggest external hands. She turned, measuring him. Dismissive. No longer fully.
You presume much, Captain.
To serve, he said simply, no boast. The palace perimeter's blind spots mirror today's crowd. Multiple vectors unchecked. Grant me tactical oversight of the guard rotation. 1 week. Prove utility. Or step aside. Her advisors, clustered below, would balk. Kresh already growled of dilutions. Yet the humans calm, enduring the court's chill without fatigue. Juggling threat scans and protocol. Stirred reluctant curiosity. He multitasked as if breathing, eyes tracing patrol gaps while reciting Tsar salute forms flawlessly, adapted from briefings and hours. Vexar intruded then, frill ablaze. Sovereign, indulge this not. Human command invites fracture. Valiska silenced him with a glance. Captain Reyes accepts temporary charge of palace perimeter security, she announced to the gathering cluster, her voice carrying like decree. Gasps rippled. Kresh's tail thrashed. Sereth's eyes widened in segmented surprise. 1 week. Results, not rhetoric, bind us. Reyes inclined his head, humble deference without bow. I'll coordinate with your officers. Their experience leads, I refine. As the advisors dispersed in stunned murmurs, Valiska lingered, watching him confer with the guard captain, pointing out patrol overlaps with a scavenged datapad, weaving human pattern sense into Tassar grids. Sereth sidled close later, preliminary report in claw. The formation shift. His scan caught micro-anomalies in crowd thermals. Tsar eyes miss such flux. Not luck, Empress. Improvisation. She nodded fractionally. Crest smoothing. Audit continues. Full spectrum. Reyes glanced back once, their eyes meeting across the balcony. No words but the spark from the throne room held. Alliance's edge sharpening. Bexar's faction plotted in shadows, borders still menaced, but this human's quiet competence cracked her court certainties. 1 week. Proof would fall where it landed. Below, Jonah Reyes moved among the guards, his voice steady as he sketched adjustments on a shared holoslate. See here. The Eastern Bastion sensor arc leaves a 15-meter shadow at dusk. Pair it with your flank drones, offset by human shift timing. The Tessar captain tilted his crest skeptically but nodded, mandibles working through the logic. Jonah felt no strain. Protocol recitals from morning mingled seamlessly with tactical overlays, his mind threading patterns others segmented. Highguard Lirak, a veteran with scars from the Veil Wars, grunted approval after the first drill. Your kind. Endures shifts we rotate thrice, and spots the weave's loose thread. No awe yet, just pragmatic note. Lirak's own strength and raw plasma endurance unmatched, but this human layered it novelly. Beliska watched from afar, propriety veiling her intrigue. Vexar's latest dispatch decried human meddling, yet patrol efficiency metrics climbed already. Sereth's audit deepened. Human neural scans showed polyphasic processing, juggling threats, customs, even subtle crest languages in real time. They bond pack swiftly, Sereth murmured. Lirak shares ration gel now. Unprecedented. She permitted a private query that night, as Reyes reported initial sweeps. Your foresight today, instinct or study? Both, Empress. Crowds pack like old Earth demos. Thermal spike before intent. Your guards excel at hold lines. Combine that, impenetrable. No arrogance, just fact. Her tail brushed his boot accidentally. Or not, in the dim strategium. 1 week proves or breaks. Luck favors the prepared, Captain. Yours holds scrutiny. He smiled faintly, resilient, under the weight. Then we prepare together. As he departed for the perimeter watch, volunteering double shifts without murmur, Beliska's crest flared privately. The court spun tales of instability, but facts accreted. This human's ordinary vigilance outpaced rote. Factions circled. The audit would confirm. Her empire, perhaps, evolve. Beliska's claws clicked against the Obsidian Council slab as the leaked report materialized in holographic fury, its crimson seals fracturing the chamber's hush. Senator Krell's sigil pulsed at the core, tendrils linking his inner circle to the skirmish planners. Supply lines, encrypted orders, even troop manifests, smuggled beyond the palace wards. Treachery, she intoned, her voice a silken blade, crest flaring to command silence from the assembled nobles. Eyes darted, murmurs coiled like smoke. Krell rose, his frilled throat pulsing denial. Highness fabrication. My aides traffic in ledgers, not blades. But the hologram spun inexorably, timestamps aligning with the border flares that had nearly unraveled the treaty signing. Velishka's gaze swept the table, Lord Bexus paling, Archivist Thorne's mandibles clicking unease. The council fractured before her, allies hedging, rivals scenting blood. She quelled the urge to summon guards. Proof demanded precision, not purge. Jonah, she said instead, the human's name dropping like a gauntlet. He stood at the chamber's edge, posture unyielding after his perimeter watch. Double shifts volunteered without a flinch, his human frame showing no sag of fatigue where Tessar sentinels would have cycled out.
Take a sweep. Covert.
Bring me threads to pull. His nod was crisp, eyes meeting hers without presumption. Understood, Empress. I'll need a shadow map of the outer grids, and 2 of your quietest blades. No boast, just the quiet catalog of needs. Krell's frills twitched. Dismissive. As if the primitive consort played at soldiery. Veliska noted it, filed it. Jonah moved, already murmuring coordinates to the assigned Tessar operatives, his voice threading human cadence through their hisses. Outside the palace sprawl, under bruised twilight skies, Jonah crouched in the drainage warrens, multi-sensor visor clamped to his temple, the Tessar pair flanking him, Sketh and Lyra, elite but rigid in protocol, hissed queries through comms.
Captain Reyes, thermal scans show null.
Abort efficiency? Patterns don't lie, Jonah murmured, ignoring the ache in legs that had logged 20 hours upright. Human endurance, he thought idly, just pushing through like any shift back home. But here, aliens gaped at baselines. He traced boot prints in the silt, faint offsets from standard Tassar date, wider stance, off-world alloy treads. There, vent cluster 12 degrees right. Mask your vents. They're listening for exhalations. Sketh's tail lashed skepticism, but they complied. cloaks shimmering to null heat. Jonah multitasked, visor parsing encrypted bursts from a hidden node, one hand sketching a hasty grid on his wrist pad while the other primed a stun dart. Creativity sparked. Link the node's frequency to palace outliers? No. Improvise. He jury-rigged a localizer from a scavenged power cell, and Lyra's discarded blade shard, pulsing a mimic signal. The vent hissed response. The operative burst out. Scaled mercenary, not Tassar, clutching a satchel. Jonah lunged, body-checking him into the muck before stuns flew. Sketh pinned the arms. Lyra secured the legs. Impossible intercept, Sketh rasped, mandibles agape as Jonah pried the satchel free. Encoded plan spilled. Troop vectors, senator drop points, a nexus glowing with foreign glyphs. Zorath concorded. Not mere rebels. Clean haul, Jonah said, binding the prisoner with flex cuffs. Lyra's eyes widened, her crest flickering awe. You foresaw the tread? Without scans? Jonah shrugged, hauling the operative upright. Just connected dots. Let's move before echoes call friends. Back in the throne vault, Baliska's council reconvened under her unyielding stare. The archivist, Thorn, shuffled ancient codices at her gestured command. Reopen the precedents, Thorn. Interspecies unions, dust them off. Dismissal serves no empire. Thorn's spines quivered. Protocol screamed irrelevance for primitive bonds, but her tone brooked no fracture. He bowed, tendrils delving into restricted vaults, pulling forth brittle hollows of forgotten pacts. Tessara queens wed to avian lords, Saurian envoys. Viable if strained through law's sieve. The chamber doors groaned as Lord Draven, the rival suitor, oiled scales gleaming, ambitions sharper, strode in with high court scrolls. Empress, I petition invocation. The third edict prohibits unions diluting divine blood. This human taints the line. The pact crumbles under antiquity's weight. Nobles leaned in, Krell's frills perking hope. Baliska's crest held steady, a regal dam against the tide. Legal jeopardy coiled tight. The edict, if upheld, voided the border treaty, inviting Zorath fangs. Rise, Jonah, she commanded as he entered. Prisoner in tow, satchel maps projecting fresh threats. The council's fracture deepened, gasps rippled at the Zorath links. Draven's eyes narrowed. Krell's aides paled. Draven pressed. The human's escapade proves nothing. Court inquiry first. Isolation of the consort. Balishka's voice cracked the air like thunder-fractured stone. He remains under imperial protection. My consort, my shield. Challenge that, and face my legions. Her gaze pinned Draven Propriety's formal shell thinning to reveal the steel beneath. Nobles shifted. Vex's nodded subtle accord. Even Krell's denial faltered. Draven bowed, retreating a pace. Petition tabled for now. Jonah deposited the operative before the interrogation slab, maps unfurling. Senator safe houses ringed by Zorath vectors, a web altering the entire threat lattice. He's yours, Empress. Cracked enough en route to name drops. The prisoner snarled, but bindings held. Speak, Valiska ordered, leaning close. The mercenary's defiance crumbled under her presence. And Jonah's quiet, unblinking watch. Senator Krell's coin, Zorath whispers. Draven knew the routes, funneled arms through his estates. Skirmish was probe, invasion next. The chamber ignited. Krell lunged denial. Draven's scales blanched. Valiska silenced them with a claw's slash. Guards. Custody for all threads. Her council divided starkly now. Loyalists rallying. Traitors exposed. The human's map redrawing allegiances. Jonah stood apart, wiping silt from his gear. Oblivious to Sketh and Lyra's exchanged glances of dawning reverence. Ordinary vigilance. To him, to them, a seismic shift. Baliska met his eyes across the chaos. A private flicker in her crest. Political necessity had forged this proximity. Competence bound it tighter. The audit loomed. Precedents unearthed. Enemies mapped anew. Her empire teetered, yet in this human's unyielding orbit, strength found form. Thorn's hollows hummed promise. The court would bend or break. As interrogators dragged the operative away, Draven's parting glare lingered on Jonah, venom unslaked. Baliska noted it, her resolve hardening. Partnership was no ceremony now. It was survival's edge. The leash's claws tightened on the arm of her throne as the chamber doors hissed open again, admitting a cluster of breathless aides. The lead one, her spymaster Krell, dropped to one knee. extending an encrypted holopad with unsteady taloned hands. Empress. Fresh intercepts from the Vorath border. Covert channels. Aid flowing to Lord Draven's faction. Credits. Arms. Even Legion deserters. She snatched the pad, her multifaceted eyes narrowing at the flickering glyphs, or wrath. The neighboring empire's tendrils, slithering into her court like venom through scales. Draven's bid for her throne had always reeked of opportunism, but foreign backing elevated it to treason's blade at her throat. The marriage pact with the humans, meant to seal borders and humble her rivals, now teetered on this revelation. One wrong move, and the High Court would devour her authority whole. "Reyes!" she commanded, voice like polished obsidian. Jonah stood at her flank, unmoving sentinel in his crisp Alliance uniform, his human face a mask of quiet focus. He'd barely spoken since the operative's removal, but his eyes had tracked every glare, every twitch. "Your assessment. Now." He stepped forward without flourish, accepting the pad from Krell. His fingers danced across the interface, pulling up raw data streams, garbled bursts of Vorath code layered over Draven's private relays. The court murmured, frills rustling in skepticism. Humans were novelties, not cryptographers. Tissar codebreakers trained lifetimes for such knots. Jonah's brow furrowed faintly, not in strain but concentration, as if unraveling a simple knot. He isolated threads, frequency spikes, matching Vorath envoy shipments, timestamp overlaps with Draven's war chest deposits. Then the cipher, a rotating fractal key, Vorath's pride, twisting through quantum hashes. Aliens like her people layered it with ritual precision. Humans, she recalled from briefings, jury-rigged solutions from scraps. "Here," he said evenly, projecting the decryption onto the chamber's central holodome. Lines unspooled into clarity. Orders for safe houses, troop movements funneled through the envoy Thalor. Networks lit up, Draven's inner circle, bribe ledgers, even a fallback invasion route if the suitor claimed her throne. They're not just backing him, they're positioning for partition. Thalor's the linchpin. Cut him, and the flow stops. Krell's frills flared in shock, mandibles clicking. Impossible. That cipher's unbroken for cycles. Our best minds. Patterns human simple. Jonah replied, humble as ever, tapping a secondary overlay. Repeats every 47 cycles. Keyed to stellar drift. They wrote it. We notice. No boast. Just fact. His voice steady amid the aide's stunned silence. Velishka felt a coil unwind in her chest. Not relief, but the sharp thrill of competence unveiled. This human, her ceremonial consort, sifted galactic intrigue like battlefield intel. She'd dismissed his kind as endurance freaks, blunt instruments for trenches. Yet here he stood, cracking what her legions couldn't, eyes already scanning for the next thread. Partnership's edge indeed. "Arrest Envoy Thalor," she decreed, rising with imperial grace, her iridescent scales shimmering under the dome lights. "Delay Draven's hearing indefinitely. No rival claims the throne while foreign claws meddle." Guards snapped to motion, phaser manacles humming. The chamber buzzed approval, but Velishka's gaze lingered on Jonah. He'd shifted the board without a blade drawn. Words spread, like plasma fire. By the time the High Court assembled in the vaulted synod, towering arches of obsidian and gold, etched with the Emperor's blood oaths, the air thrummed with outrage. Justices in crimson robes encircled the dais, their eldest, Matriarch Vera, slamming her staff for silence. Her voice boomed, ancient law woven into every syllable. "Empress Velishka. Ancient Codex demands purge. Draven's bloodline exiled, his allies flayed under the triple sun. The pact with these off-worlders, nullified if borders bleed from hesitation." Velishka met Vera's glare, her posture unyielding, tail coiling with restrained fury. The court embodied her power's roots, tradition's unbreaking spine. "Yield here," and the throne cracked. "The Codex binds us to strength, Matriarch, not rash blades. Foreign webs entangle Draven. We excise the root, not hack limbs." Murmurs swelled. "The human whispers poison," one justice hissed. "Draven's legions loyal?" "Loyal?" Velishka cut in, formal tone fraying at the edges. "Intercepts prove otherwise."
Captain Reyes exposes what your augurs missed.
She gestured to Jonah, who stood beside her, unflinching under the scrutiny. Eyes flicked to him, dismissive frills stiffening. Vera's compound eyes whirred, focusing. "A consort deciphers Vorath seals? Prove it, off-worlder, or the Codex claims you both." Jonah inclined his head respectfully. No defiance. Data's here, matriarch. He synced his wrist pad to the Synod's nexus, replaying the break. Justices leaned in, frills drooping as networks bloomed undeniable. Gasps rippled. One clutched his staff, scales paling. Valiska seized the fracture. The court seized truth. I grant Captain Reyes a seat at the war table. His plan to dismantle the network proceeds, under my sanction. Vera hesitated, mandibles grinding, then bowed stiffly. As the Empress wills, but failure voids the pact. The Synod dispersed in hushed waves, respect mingling with unease. Valiska led Jonah to the adjacent war sanctum, a vault of strategic holomaps pulsing with legion dispositions. Generals awaited, hardened veterans, their armor scarred from Vorath skirmishes. General Korvath loomed largest, a mountain of plated muscle, his loyalty unquestioned, or so she'd thought. Jonah wasted no breath, diving into the decrypted flows. He multitasked seamlessly, cross-referencing shipment manifests with patrol logs, overlaying Draven's missives, even pulling live feeds from border drones. Valiska watched, perched at the table's head, as his hands blurred, isolating anomalies, predicting drops. Humans endured sieges without falter, but this, juggling data streams like breaths. There, he said after cycles that felt like heartbeats to her. A node glowed crimson. Korvath's supply depot diverting arms to Vorath cutouts. Your general's ledger ties in, subtle, laundered through false requisitions. He's the domestic anchor. Korvath's frills exploded in fury. Lies! This human slanders proof, Jonah interjected calmly, projecting the chain. Timestamps matching Korvath's signatures, funds looping back to Draven. Irrefutable. The general deflated, eyes darting, then lunged for a combat. Too late. Guards pinned him. Valiska's heart pounded, not with shock but calculation. Korvath, her border bulwark, compromised. The board tilted. Reassign Korvath to Hinterland's oversight, she ordered, voice steel over sorrow. A flaw in her command chain. Excised. Promote Legate Thorn in his stead. Reyes, your network purge begins at dawn. Jonah nodded. No triumph, just resolve. We'll need joint teams, your stealth fields, my infill patterns. As aides hauled Korvath away, Valiska met Jonah's gaze. Propriety cracked further. This was no mere alliance. He'd broken the cipher, unmasked a traitor, and in doing so, bound their fates tighter. The game's pieces shifted, Vorath exposed, Draven isolated, her throne fortified. But whispers of greater storms lingered in the intercepts. Survival demanded more than ceremony now. It demanded trust. Krell approached, frills still quivering from the revelations. Empress. The human. He unraveled what our crypts couldn't. Is this normal for them? Valishka's tail flicked thoughtfully. Normal? No. Extraordinary. She glanced at Jonah, coordinating with Thorn already. His focus unwavering. Dismissal had eroded. Respect took root. And in the quiet forging of that bond, the Imperium stood stronger. Shouts shattered the throne room's fragile calm, steel ringing against stone as armored figures poured through the breached gates. Empress Valiska's claws dug into her armrest, her golden eyes snapping to the arched entrance where shadows twisted into assassins. Jonah Reyes was already moving, his human frame a blur amid the hand-selected Tesser guards he'd drilled just hours before. Protect the Empress, Jonah barked, voice cutting through the chaos like a vibroblade. He pivoted, leading his squad, 5 loyal Tessar veterans, their scales still humming from his earlier instructions, into the fray. Valiska watched, pulse quickening as a mercenary lunged from the throng, curved dagger arcing straight for her throat. The blade whistled, aimed true amid the scrum. Jonah intercepted it mid-swing. His hand clamped the assassin's wrist with impossible precision, twisting in a fluid lock that snapped bone. The mercenary howled, dagger clattering free. But Jonah didn't stop. His boot drove into the intruder's knee, folding him like scrap. Another attacker swung low. Jonah sidestepped, using the fallen foe's body as a shield, then hurled the dagger back into its owner's throat. Blood sprayed, hot and coppery, but Jonah pressed forward, his guards fanning out in the wedge formation he'd improvised from their rigid phalanxes. Valiska's tail coiled tight, a rare thrill coiling in her chest. This human, her consort in name, operative in truth, fought not with brute force but layered efficiency, reading strikes before they landed, turning the palace's marble expanse into killing ground. Her legions faltered at the edges, stunned by the mercenaries' neural disruptors, but Jonah endured. Ignoring the stings that felled to Tisar beside him, he multitasked seamlessly, shouting coordinates to reserves, blocking a plasma arc with a scavenged shield, all while scanning for the next threat. "Banners up," Felicia commanded, surging to her feet. Propriety be damned. Survival demanded clarity. Her voice boomed through the comms, laced with imperial steel. "Raise the crimson standards. Signal the reserve legions to the royal compound. Secure the walls. Reroute the 5th cohort from the outer rim." Ceremony cracked under necessity. She prioritized the living over the scripted. Horns blared outside, silk banners unfurling like bloodied wings, and distant thunder rolled as legions pivoted toward the palace. The breach held, barely. Jonah's squad sealed the inner archway, bodies piling at their feet, but the rival faction's banners, House Krellis unmistakable, waved beyond the gates. Deliska's mind raced through alliances fractured, whispers of dissent now blades in the night. Jonah wiped gore from his face, meeting her gaze across the room. No exhaustion in those steady eyes, only focus. Dismissal, long eroded. This was partnership forged in fire. Dawn clawed through the smoke as the High Court convened in the scarred audience chamber. Robbed elders clustered like storm clouds, their crests flared in outrage, tails lashing accusations. Archon Thorm, Krellis's sly uncle, seized the floor first. "Ancient prohibitions, your radiance. The Codex Imperialis forbids alien blades within the sanctum, let alone a human consort wielding them. This primitive risks divine retribution." "Exile him now, lest the gods deem our defense profane," murmurs swelled, eyes darting to Jonah, who stood bloodied but unbound at Valiska's flank. She felt the weight of their stares, the political web tightening. Krellis had timed this perfectly, coup masked as zealotry, turning her bold alliance into heresy. Her claws flexed. Strength demanded she hold the line. "Enough," Felicia declared, her voice a silken whip. She stepped forward, placing herself bodily between Jonah and the court's advance. Gasps rippled. No empress shielded a consort so publicly. Emergency powers invoke Section 12 of the Codex. Wartime prerogative supersedes peacetime taboo. "Captain Reyes acts under imperial jurisdiction, his blade an extension of my will. To question him is to question me." Dorn recoiled, scales paling. "But the law bends to survival, Archon." Her tail flicked dismissal, propriety's facade cracking into raw command. Jonah remained silent, but she sensed his quiet vigilance, scanning the elders for tells she might miss. The court yielded, grudgingly, as couriers reported the legions holding the compound. Yet the siege lingered, Krellis forces encircling, demanding her abdication. Jonah leaned close, voice low amid the tension. "Inner sanctum's vulnerable, Empress. Give me 10 minutes. I'll lock it down. No boast. Just fact." She nodded, watching him vanish into the shadowed corridors with 2 guards, his stride unyielding despite the night's toll. He moved like liquid shadow through the palace's veins, pulse steady where Tisar warriors would flag. Disruptor burns seared his side, but pain sharpened focus. Endurance humans called baseline, aliens deemed myth. Multitasking flowed, rigging blast doors with scavenged emitters, patching a breached terminal mid-stride, all while eavesdropping on intercepted Krellis chatter. A pattern emerged. Foreign signatures laced the comms, not native to SAR code. Voron Republic tech. Smuggled neural keys. Adaptability surged. Jonah hotwired a mercenary console using a jury-rigged data spike from his kit. Human improvisation trumping rote protocols. Files spilled. Contracts, star charts, proof of off-world paymasters fueling the coup. He bundled it onto a secure crystal, then sealed the sanctum proper, blast shields humming to life. Minutes later, he returned to the throne room, crystal in hand, guards trailing in awe. Valiska accepted it, her claws brushing his. A fleeting contact, electric with unspoken alliance. Report. Foreign backers, Empress. Voron mercenaries coordinating with Krellis. Transcripts here, timestamps, payment logs, diplomatic leverage. She slotted the crystal into the central holodisplay, data blooming for the court. Thorn's crest wilted. Gasps echoed. Valiska straightened, broadcasting the proof across imperial channels. Krellis traitors collude with Republic infiltrators. Legions, stand down the siege, but prepare flanks. Archon Thorm, you will testify, or join the exiles. The tide turned. Krellis banners faltered as reserves crushed the flanks, Voron signatures exposed in real time. Diplomats scrambled. Valiska's counter sealed borders without further blood, invoking treaty clauses against foreign meddling. Thorn knelt, broken, as the court bowed to her unyielding poise. Jonah stood at her side, wiping sweat from his brow. a human gesture amid alien grandeur. Belisa glanced at him, tail curling subtly in approval. He'd intercepted death, secured her heart's stronghold, unraveled the plot with ingenuity her tacticians envied. Respect had rooted deep. Now it bloomed into trust. The Imperium endured, stronger for this human's quiet extraordinary. Yet whispers lingered in the halls. More shadows stirred beyond the gates. Beliska's gaze hardened. Partnership demanded vigilance. Explosions rocked the Imperial spires as the first enemy salvos breached the outer shields, crimson flares blooming against the void like blood in water. Beliska stood at the heart of the command nexus, her clawed gauntlets gripping the holographic war table, scales rippling with restrained fury. Holofeeds flickered, siege drones swarming the border stations, while diplomatic channels choked under a blockade edict from the Krell conquered, foreign backers pulling strings to starve her supply lines before the ink on the human alliance dried. Empress, High Arbiter Lyrak intoned from the shadowed council link, his frilled crest flaring in agitation. The Krell claim provocation by your treaty. Legions are pinned. Freighters burn in the lanes. Yield the outer worlds, or famine claims the core. Beliska's mandibles clicked sharply, silencing the murmurs of her aides. Yield to shadows backed by opportunists who scented weakness in her bold pact. No. Her gaze flicked to Jonah Reyes, the human captain stationed at her flank. Silent, unyielding, his dark eyes scanning the projections with that infuriating calm. He had warned of this in private councils, piecing together Krell whispers from intercepted bursts. Primitive, they called his kind. Yet here he stood, while courtiers quailed. Speak your mind, Captain, she commanded, voice like polished obsidian. Protocol demanded it now. Partnership demanded more. Jonah straightened, his uniform unmarked by the chaos, fingers tracing supply vectors on the hollow. The blockade's the throat. Squeeze it, the siege chokes. I infiltrate their command nodes. 3 key relays coordinating the drones. Plant disruptors. Ghost out. Your fleet maneuvers in feint. Draw their heavies to the nebula fringe. Then pivot for the kill. We hit simultaneous. They fracture.
Simple words. Layered precision.
Belicia's inner lids narrowed. Calculating. Human endurance tales were myth to her people. Fragile frames pushing beyond metabolic limits. But Jonah's proposal wove her legion's might with his audacity. No rote assault. A novel braid of shadow and thunder. Lyrak's feed hissed protest. Empress, this outsider presumes fleet command? The court forbids. By lead, Beliska cut in, her crest unfurling to full imperial span. And I appoint Captain Reyes co-commander. Public decree, now. Gasps rippled through the nexus. Aides exchanged crested glances. Defiance burned in her throat. High court warnings be damned. Political fractures would spiderweb later, but survival trumped ceremony. The decree beamed empire-wide, Jonah's human face etched beside her seal on every feed. He met her gaze, a flicker of surprise in those steady eyes, then nodded. No boast, just readiness. Hours blurred into the void's grip. Beliska's flagship, Ebon Sovereign, prowled the nebula's glowing veils, her bridge a symphony of Tassar efficiency. Legionnaires calibrating plasma lances, navigators plotting microjumps with ancestral precision. Yet doubt gnawed. Had she gambled her throne on a soft-skinned enigma? Status, she demanded, pheromones thick with command. Enemy heavies engaged, Empress, her fleet admiral rumbled. Faint holds. A subcom pinged. Jonah's encrypted burst, in Relay 1. Guards down. No alarms. 2 minutes to Node 2. No fatigue in the transmission, though Tsar infiltrators flagged after first breach from neurotoxins. Beliska's claws tightened. How? His bio-red showed elevated adrenaline, steady vitals, enduring what her kind rationed with stims. She watched split feeds, her cruisers unleashing lance volleys, shredding drone screens in brilliant arcs. Then Jonah's helmet cam, grainy, visceral. He ghosted through Krell vents, body compressing into impossible angles, multitasked juggling breaching charges, jammer codes, and evasion paths. The patrol loomed. He froze, reading their patrol rhythm from shadows alone. Then struck, silent takedown. 2 foes dropped with improvised garrote from conduit wire. Creativity born of crisis, not doctrine. Node 2 compromised, his voice crackled even. Patterns match. Relay 3's vents cycle every 90 seconds. Fleet pivot, execute, Beliska ordered, signaling the maneuver. Her fleet surged, a leviathan uncoiling. nebula gases igniting in their wake. Krell heavies reeled, command feed stuttering as Jonah's disruptors bloomed like digital venom. Blockade relays winked out. Siege drones faltered mid-swarm, crashing into stations like felled beasts. Victorious feeds flooded the bridge. Cheers erupted, crests flaring in unison. Valiska allowed a rare rumble of approval, her gaze lingering on Jonah's returning shuttle beacon. He had breached 3 nodes solo, adapting to Krell biolocks her techs deemed unbreakable. Pattern recognition linking vent cycles to drone pulses. Her people excelled in fleet thunder. This human wove the unseen threads. The High Court chamber loomed like a cavern of judgment, obsidian pillars etched with ancestral edicts, Lyrak and the arbiters arrayed in their thrones, frills rigid with outrage. Empress, Lyrak began, voice laced with venom, your reckless elevation of the human invites anarchy. Obstructive measures, treaty delays, legion reallocations. Stand until precedent clears. Valishta strode forward, victory hollow orbs orbiting her like captive stars, burning Krell hulks, freed supply lanes pulsing green. Precedent is forged in fire, Arbiter. Behold, blockade shattered, sieges crumbled. Captain Reyes breached their core while my fleet struck true. Yield your measures, or face imperial decree. Murmurs swelled, shock rippling crests, pheromones shifting from scorn to unease. A younger arbiter leaned forward, frills quivering. The human endured triple the toxin dose. Our infiltrators report such feats impossible without collapse. Impossible for some, Valiska said, voice steady as stone. Fallout loomed, alliances strained, factions emboldened. But legitimacy demanded this. Jonah entered behind her, bearing a salvaged Krell core, his stance unwavering despite the chamber's chill glare. No swagger, quiet competence, eyes scanning faces with that subtle red of tensions her court missed. Lyrak's frill deflated fractionally. Evidence compels review. Ratify, Valiska commanded, accepting the storm. The alliance stands under new writ. Human consort proven in blood and void. Debate fractured, then yielded, arbiters voting amid stunned silence. Cheers did not follow. Respect did, crests dipping in deference. Valiska turned to Jonah, her claw extending in formal clasp. Public, irrevocable. Captain Jonah Reyes, I name you consort and co-strategist. Rule at my side. His hand met hers, warm against scale, grip firm yet yielding. A spark passed, political necessity blooming into something deeper, her propriety cracking under shared fire. His eyes held hers, humble gratitude mingling with resolve. Honored Empress. Together. The court bowed as one, whispers turning to awe. Shadows beyond the gates receded, for now. She was born to rule, and learned that true power was finding an equal. Partnership demanded vigilance, but now it promised empires unbroken.